So this week we're going to finish the ABCs of Loona series with their debut era. After this, I will also upload some summary videos and a timeline, so it is not really an end of the series, but more so a new start. So this video is going to be about the Hi Hi MV and the Butterfly MV, and also the multiple teasers that were released before the Butterfly comeback. This is going to be one of my longest videos ever, so I really hope you like the video. First of all, what is really interesting to me is the fact that the Hi Hi MV has the left to right opening of the non-YYY MVs, and the MV has white borders just like the other circle MVs, as well as Heejin and Eve's MV. I theorized in the past that this could indicate a connection of the members, but recently I theorized that these indicate a disconnect of the black border and the white border members. But more on that later. So if we consider that the other circle members' MVs take place in Middle-earth and have white borders, then this could indicate that this MV does not take place in Eden, but neither does it on Earth. And it taking place in Middle-earth would also be underlined by the lack of other people in the whole MV, which in the past indicated to us that the MV does not take place on Earth, even if the buildings make it look like it does. In the Godfront MV there were a lot of skyscrapers shown, and since this MV starts with Jinsol standing in a parking garage building and overlooking a city with skyscrapers, it does kind of remind me of the Godfront MV. But also it reminds me of Eve's new MV, in which she is shown in a similar parking garage. Also, now that Loona is quote-unquote united, we get a new intro, where we get to see all of the Loona members' colors. Heejin's vivid pink, Hyunjin's yellow, Hustle's green, Yeojin's orange, BB's light pink, Kimlip's red, Jinsol's blue, Cherry's purple, Eve's burgundy, Chu's peach, Gowon's Eden green, and finally Olivia Hayes' black. You know, it's been a long day. I haven't seen you today. You're somewhere, I'm sure. These are the first few sentences that start off the MV. So let's just note for later that the members are looking for one another, but at the same time it does insinuate that the members have already met each other in the past. So maybe they had to wait until everyone was in Middle-earth to come together as a whole group. Now the MV starts off with the other circle members and, interestingly enough, Yeojin. After Jinsol is standing in a parking garage building, that could very well be the building Eve was shown in the new MV. She is looking up at the sky, and quite fittingly for Jinsol, it seems to be either dawn or dusk. Fitting, since Jinsol has black as her secondary assigned color, and therefore she figuratively represents the darkness or the night. Then there's Kimlip standing on a staircase and reaching out for the sky. In this shot, the sky is light blue, so this probably takes place during the day. Next we can see the backside of Cherry, and again it looks like either dawn or dusk. But again, I would guess that this takes place during the dawn, since Cherry has white as her secondary assigned color, and therefore she figuratively represents the light or the day. And also during the dawn, the sky is mostly light blue and yellow, sometimes even orange or pinkish, but at dusk it is more red-purple-ish with darker blue, and Jinsol has dark blue and pink, while Cherry has yellow and light blue, so yeah. This kind of proves my theory of Jinsol being darkness and the night, Cherry being light and the day, and Kimlip being the in-between, shown to us in her Eclipse MV, since she's the only other circle member that is shown during the day and the night, in light and in darkness. And while we cannot see Cherry's face in this shot, we can slim down the possible candidates by looking at her long brown hair and her shirt having the typical other circle color trim. So Hustle has long brown hair in this MV, but she's wearing a flower dress. BB has long brown hair in this MV, but her hair is too light, and she also has bangs. Eve has long brown hair in this MV, and she is even wearing the typical other circle color trim shirt, but at the same time, at the end of the MV, we can see that Eve is running together with her members, while this mysterious person is running on the bridge all alone. Now the only candidate that is left would be Cherry. Overall, I feel like it makes the most sense, since these scenes of this mysterious member are always before or after the other circle members, so it would thematically make a lot of sense for this to be Cherry. Other than this, we also don't get to see some of the members running. This is kind of an interesting detail. While we do not get to see Hustle running, they did film scenes of her running together with Yeojin through the field, but they didn't make it into the MV, which would then mean that of the 1/3 subunit, Heejin has running scenes as well as BB and Yeojin. In Other Circle, Kimlip and Jinsol have running scenes, and again what could be Cherry. And YYY are all running together. This would make Hyunjin and Hustle the only members to not partake in the running, and depending on who the mysterious member is, Cherry could also be added to this list. So what could this mean? I'm not quite sure, but I could imagine this either being a mistake or it being some type of explanation to why the members didn't succeed, since we know that after Hi Hi the members are turning back time and end up being separated in the Butterfly MV. which would then indicate that they are not able to break away from the Mobius strip looping. It's like in the Girlfriend MV where time is rewind back again and again because the members need multiple tries to achieve their goals. I also feel like the Girlfriend MV is a mirror of the Hi Hi MV. In the Girlfriend MV, we see the members practice their plans to gather both the 1/3 and YYY subunit and create a new moon/world. I think that the Girlfriend MV's new moon is a metaphor for them creating Middle-earth in their liking. But the Hi Hi MV was supposed to be about them creating their own world if they would have succeeded. Which also explains why we see the map with the members' symbols in the MV, since they were looking out for the members and plan how they can bring everyone together. Either way though, I would guess that this is Cherry, so we see Jinsol, then Kimlip and Cherry. By the way, this is also the order in which the members entered Middle-earth, at least in my theory. Now we see Yeojin in a field that does look a little bit like the field from the Love and Live MV and Cherry's Love Cherry Motion MV. In both of these MVs, the members end up being in a strange new place, Middle-earth. Another detail making me believe that this takes place in some type of Middle-earth, and this is also kind of the first time we get to see Yeojin after she was lost in the forest. So her being rescued either took place off-screen, or we see Yeojin standing in this field, because it is symbolizing her being lost. Then she reunites with Hasul, since they are now able to visit Middle-earth through the help of the Other Circle members. So the field could be a metaphor for Middle-earth / the forest Yeojin was lost in, but I wouldn't bet on it. Next we see Heejin with her eyes closed on top of a skyscraper that could be a connection to the last time we saw her, on top of a skyscraper together with Olivia Hay. It definitely is interesting that she is alone here instead of being together with her mirror member. So what if she didn't meet her mirror member in this version of the story? Again, I do have a theory about Hi Hi and Butterfly being two separate timelines, and I will talk about this later on. But just keep in mind that it is kind of interesting that we see Heejin alone and Olivia Hay alone, even though they were together at the end of the Egoist MV. And then the scene from the Sweet Crazy Love MV with Kimlip opening her eye to color plays. This to me is interesting since I theorized that the awakening of colors in the world was the first thing that took place in the Loonaverse. Hence why Heejin talks about seeing colors vividly in her MV for the first time in her otherwise dull life. So it does fit nicely to add this here, since this is the beginning of a new story, the post-debut story. Now let's quickly go through the quick flashing scenes. In these scenes we can see things being spelled out in different languages and with the members' colors being added. So if we were to translate this and put this in the order of the members' debuts, then it would spell out the beginning of Fate, Fly High, High High, Higher Than Expected, Take Off, Girls of the Month, The Moon, The Expectations, 12 Girls, Full Moon, Fate, The Meeting and Beginning of 12, Loonaverse. It is kind of like telling us a little story of the members' fate to meet each other and their ascension to Middle-earth, since both 1/3 and YYY had to go to Middle-earth to meet. And it emphasizes that when they all come together, the full moon is created. Them coming together and making a full moon is their fate. But remember that Eve in her MV description told us that she wants to defy her fate and create her own future. She basically wants to make her own destiny instead of following her fate that was created by someone else. Now we get a scene mirroring the Love and Live MV in which Hyunjin was shown in a similar manner. Generally speaking, in this MV we get a lot of callbacks to the pre-debut era, and I feel like this also fits into the lore. Remember that almost everything in the Loonaverse has a mirror. 1/3 has YYY, Jinsol has Cherry, Earth has Eden, and also there most of the times is a in-between, so Ore Circle in between 1/3 and YYY, Kimlip in between Jinsol and Cherry, and color-wise it would be Cherry's purple in between Jinsol's blue and Kimlip's red, and of course Middle-earth in between Earth and Eden. And to put mirrors of the pre-debut MVs in this MV is just telling us that these mirrors are still important, even though the YYY, Odd Circle, and 1/3 members are now technically together as one group. Next, Heejin is also looking up at the sky, where she mirrors Kimlip. They both look at the same moon that is not yet full. Also, it has the shape of the 1/3 and Odd Circle intros. And also take a look at this. This is the building from Eve's new MV, so yeah, just another little hint at the fact that this could be taking place in Middle-earth. This is the parking garage Jinsol was shown in, and it flashes to the ground, which does remind me of the transitions in the Girlfriend MV. Kimlip is standing in front of this pink reddish construction, and this is another reference to the Girlfriend MV. And of course the iconic Odd Circle colored trim shirts. Then we can take a look at the numbers that are on the construction, 9, 10, and 11, so Eve, Chu, and Go-On. And well, we know that Eve, Chu, and Go-On left Eden together before Olivia was able to follow. so maybe they're now in Middle-earth, while Jinsoo is on our way to save Olivia and reunite her with the other members. Or this is another timeline, since we saw in the Egoist MV that Olivia was saved by only Jinsoo, while in this timeline she is saved by all of the Odd Eye Circle members, like we can see later on in this MV. And when Kimlip joins Cherry, we see a shipping crate that seems to be in Eve's burgundy color, and on top of this is a crate in Eden green, and it has a butterfly on it. Just another reference to YY and the fact that Cherry has a connection to both of these members, i.e. Eve and Go-On. And well, she also has a connection to Hyunjin, whose assigned color is yellow, just like Cherry's shirt is yellow. Now, what I find to be really interesting is the fact that they cut this fence scene in between the shots of Cherry and Kimlip, and then Hassel and Yeojin. It is as if the members were not actually connected, but that there was still something that keeps them away from each other, you know? This also is kind of confirmed by Yeojin and Hassel not sharing any of the other scenes with other members. Like Heejin meets Kimlip, Hyunjin meets Cherry, but Hassel together with Yeojin and then BB, for a matter of fact, don't meet any other member in this MV. Now we transition into BB, who is running on a track. But this is not the same as it was in the Love and Live MV. This track has a stage next to it, and in Love and Live it didn't. So either they couldn't film at the old location, or this just doesn't take place in the same place as in Love and Live. But we can see that BB is still wearing her uniform from the Love and Live MV. At the end of the Love and Live MV, BB presumably ended up in an unfamiliar place, which I theorized to be Middle-earth. So maybe she is running on the tracks and through this got teleported to Middle-earth again, but who knows. Now we see Hyunjin looking up at the sky just like Heejin and the Odd Eye Circle members did before her. Also, we again see a fence, which could underline my theory of the members not really being all together, but that there's something that is obstructing their connections, like in this case a fence. Now Jinsoo is standing on top of a building, making this look similar to the Girlfriend MV, and then Kimlip and Cherry start running, which also makes Jinsoo start to run. But this time it cuts to her running, and this shot does look like a VHS shot, with all of this static going on, which is a callback to Jinsoo's Sing in the Rain MV. The static, while being a cool throwback, could also indicate that the members are being watched by somebody else again. Then we see the desert from the Girlfriend MV, also with static, then the fence scene from Yeojin and Hassel's scene, and finally what could be the ground from the Girlfriend MV. So maybe this shows us that Jinsoo, Kimlip and Cherry are running around as a symbol for them teleporting to different places in the Loonaverse. This teleporting is also kind of underlined by the next scene, in which Cherry runs from one set to another to meet Hyunjin. And she gives her a high five, which cuts to Eve, Chu and Go-On looking back in confusion. This to me always felt like the 1/3 and Odd Eye Circle members were coming together to lead the YYY members in the right direction. In a literal way, the YYY members heard the high five, but in a symbolical way they follow the other members' leads. Now Heejin meets Kimlip. They are both the first members of their subunits, and they meet in the spot where Eve was seen in the new MV. Eve also is the first member of her subunit YYY. Next we see Olivia Hay in the void space, but this time it looks like it is set in space, with all of these stars surrounding them. This is quite interesting to me because it shows us a different version of Olivia being saved. In the Egoist MV it was Jinsoo who saved her, and Heejin who was waiting on the other side for her. Now in this MV, the Odd Eye Circle subunit is saving her, and Eve is waiting for Olivia on the other side. Cherry's shirt says "invite" in Albanian. The Odd Eye Circle members surround Olivia Hay. While smiling at her, she does seem kind of scared of them. Then she presses her eyes shut and wind blows through her hair until she opens her eyes again and she seemingly is teleported to Middle-earth. She is standing on a diving board, and then we switch to Eve, who is standing next to the empty swimming pool. It seems like she was waiting for Olivia to appear, and again the fence being a focal point of the shot. Next, Eve is standing in the empty swimming pool and she is looking up at Olivia, mirroring the scene from the Egoist MV in which Eve was looking down at Olivia. Now we get another quick shot of the grass field Yeojin and Hassel are located in, and then it switches to the scenes that were already featured in the Love Forever MV, which I theorized to symbolically show us the members traveling from the forest in Eden to Middle-earth, which is also underlined by Chu and Go-On coming out of the woods into a field. They just escaped Eden, and now they are also in Middle-earth. This could also be a hint at the fact that Yeojin was also trapped in Eden and had to escape via Middle-earth, coming out of the forest into the field, so from Eden's forest into Middle-earth. Keep in mind that there was this shot in the beginning showing us Eve, Chu and Go-On together in the forest. And now we see Chu and Go-On together, while Eve is already waiting for Olivia at the empty swimming pool. It's like they all entered Middle-earth together, but since Eve already knows her way around Middle-earth, she was the fastest member to reach the empty swimming pool and is waiting for Olivia. This would kind of imply that they have a greater friendship, which does kind of contradict the Love Forever MV. I mean, even if the members meant what they did in the nicest way possible, they shouldn't act like they didn't do nothing wrong, right? It also is interesting because we see Chu together with Go-On and Eve together with Olivia. While this far it was insinuated that Chu and Eve, as well as Go-On and Olivia, were close friends. So again, this could indicate that we are looking at another timeline where their friendships develop differently. Making Olivia friends with Eve also fits into their Adam and Eve concept. Chu is sitting on a yellow swing. This will come up later again. Now Chu and Go-On are coming to the empty swimming pool area and a fence is blocking their way. Chu unlocks the fence and they enter. Meanwhile, Eve is waving at Olivia with a smile on her face. Olivia smiles back and jumps off the diving board to reunite with her members. Now the moon is completed. ARTCircle look at the moon and realize what they have to do. They look for the members to unite them, and then when they're all together, the moon becomes full. This is their quote-unquote fate. But again, they are not all together, are they? And why would the YYY members want to escape Eden? To escape their fate? Just to then follow their fate again somewhere else. But more on that later. Now all of the members are featured in the choreography parts. While in the beginning it was only 1/3, Yeojin and ARTCircle. Now we see Go-On and Chu next to the yellow swing, covered in yellow smoke. This is hella weird. This far, colored smoke was a symbol for the ARTCircle members awakening their powers, like Kimlip, Jinso and Cherry did in their MVs and the Sweet Crazy Love MV. But this is yellow smoke, so Hyunjin's assigned color. But it surrounds Go-On and Chu. While Go-On is Hyunjin's mirror member, it still doesn't really make a lot of sense. What is this supposed to tell us? In a way, it even plays into the theory that Hyunjin is originally an ARTCircle member. She, together with Kimlip and Jinsol, have primary colors assigned to them. And while I like this idea, I have to say that what I kind of didn't like about the so-called color theory all along is that there isn't really one primary color system. First of all, there are the primary colors of light, which are green, red and blue. So this would indicate that Haseol is the third ARTCircle member. Then there is the CMYK color model, which has cyan, magenta and yellow. This model is used for printers. This one would indicate that Heejin, Hyunjin and a light version of Jinsol are the ARTCircle members. Then there is the RGB color model, with red, green and blue. This one is used for screens. This also explains why when you print out a picture, the colors on the screen sometimes don't match the colors of the print. It's because the two systems lead to different looking results. And finally, there is the hex code model, which is red, green and blue. This one is used for a lot of different purposes, but most importantly, if you try to copyright a color, it most of the times is only a specific hex code that you're copyrighting rather than a whole color. But to make a long story short, I feel like the color theory makes some interesting points, but I don't really think that there was a lot of thought put behind this, which also becomes quite clear when you think about the fact that more than halfway through the pre-debut project, they still moved things around, and for example they changed Eve's assigned animal from a snake to a swan. And I think that they even stated once that the colors were made up on the spot rather than them being a big part of the lore. But again, I'm not saying that the color theory is wrong. I mean, I think that there are a lot of strong points in it. I'm just saying that we shouldn't treat it as if it was fact, and rather as a theory. Well, whatever. Now they're all gearing up to do their running scenes anyway. Jinsol in the parking lot, Yeojin in the field, who is now looking up at the sky, like she now sees the full moon as well. What I believe to be Cherry looking up. This is the exact same scene from the beginning of the MV. And now another round of fast flashing text. So it says, let's fly, ++++, orbit, are you ready, steps, together, beautiful, start, ++, first steps, ++. We see BB running on train tracks instead of a running track now. Heejin is running on the rooftop, Jinsol is running through the parking lot. What could be Cherry is running on a bridge. Yeojin is running through the field. Kimlip is running through a field of red fabric. Chu is swinging on the yellow swing. Then the YYY members are running together. This could be a scene of Hyunjin running, but we do not really get to see the face of the member, so I can't really tell. And then they all jump in the air. And what is quite interesting to me, we do not get to see them landing. While we can all agree that Heejin started flying, since we literally saw it happening, I would suggest that all of the members did the same, since we never get to see any of them landing. Now this scene is interesting because it shows us a close-up of Hyunjin in this outfit. She's the only member besides Eve to be featured in a scene with this outfit that isn't a dance scene. Maybe showing us and underlining again that they are not following their fate, but I don't know. And yeah, the MV ends with Heejin jumping off the building and flying into the air. So running seems to be an important motive in this MV and in the Loonaverse overall. We see BB running in the Love and Live MV until she ends up in a strange place, becoming a human again. We can read in the Love and Evil description, the intro track Love and Evil materializes a girl who is lost alone in a dark forest. With the piano playing in accelerando, the girl runs away deeper into the forest, which again connects running to ending up somewhere strange or unknown. Then there's Kimlip, who is running in the Girlfriend MV, but she ends up meeting her past self. So let me just quickly drop one of my most out there theories. We all thought about the Odd Circle members having superpowers, right? Kimlip can run through time, Jinsoo can teleport, and Cherry can talk to herself. But what if I told you that these are just normal abilities all of the members can have and are not necessarily to be taken at face value? So let's start easy. We know that the MVs show us the events through the eyes of the members. Yeojin sees Eden as a brightly paper-based princess castle, Chu sees it as a romance novel high school, and Gohan sees it as a cold and depressing prison. They all have subjective perspectives, which lets us know that these are not objective looks at the Loonaverse. Through the YYY members' MVs, we learn this, since all of the members are trapped in the same place, but at the same time we can easily recognize that these are differently looking places, which makes it easy for us to recognize the differences in the appearance of Eden through the eyes of the different members. But I think that this does not only apply to the YYY members, but all of the solo MVs. I mean, remember how BB's MV can be described as a look at some of her broken memories? If the MVs were objective, we would see what actually happened, but instead we just get to see everything through BB's point of view. And her memories being broken also means that we do not really get to see the true events happening, but just the fragments of BB's mind. So would it be too far-fetched to say that the Odd Circle members see their powers as something special and as some type of superpower, hence why we see them as such in their MVs? Jinsoo's teleportation is easily explained by her eating the cherries, like she does in the Egoist MV, or like Cherry does in the Love Cherry Motion MV. Then Cherry talking to herself can be explained away by her talking to her mirror member. Remember how Gohan talked to her mirror reflection in the One and Only MV? But it was implied that she actually was talking to her mirror member, which is Hyunjin. And at last Kimlip's time travel. This one is pretty clear, isn't it? I mean, she sees herself and the MV ends up being a loop, right? So yeah, what happens at the end of this MV and the XX teaser? The time is reversed by the members running and the MV becomes a loop. If you play the XX teaser backwards, you can hear that they play the beginning of the song rather than the ending, so it becomes a loop from the ending to the beginning. Just as a little side note, we know that the Mobius strip is looping and the members probably want to break this loop. You can only change a loop by not repeating the same mistakes, right? Heejun takes center stage in the Hi Hi MV, being the member that starts to fly at the end of the MV, and then the time is reversed, and who takes center stage in the Butterfly era? Olivia Hay. This is also the reason why I like to imagine Haeju being the one that brought Loosembles together, and her being the one that wants to reconnect all of the members again. Last time Heejun was the first and Hyunjin was the second, and now it is Haeju and Gohan who start building up Loona. So yeah, this is just one more really great detail. So what I'm basically trying to say here is that the Odd Circle members do not really have superpowers. They were just the first members to notice these powers since they have odd eyes. And having an odd eye just means that you have a stronger connection to these oddities. But like they have implied in the past, everyone has a little bit of oddness in them. This is also stated in the description for the intro tag to the Mix and Match album. Odd, the intro track to express Odd Circle's identity. They say that we are all odd as people. So yeah, they don't have superpowers that are specific to them. It's more like all of the members are able to use oddness to shape the Mobius strip, which in and of itself seems to be a magical place. So it's not like Kimlip ran back in time, but more so like she was able to travel the Mobius strip and loop the events of the MV, as if she was turning back the cassette tape, like she did in the MV, meaning that everything gets set back to its original state, rather than her existing 2 times in the past. And in this MV, the members start to run in order for them to basically do what Kimlip did, but on a bigger scale. They followed their fate and end up not changing the loop, so they reverse the tape to the beginning to get another chance. What to me is quite interesting is the fact that the Plus Plus teaser, which was the first teaser released for the debut of Loona, is such a dark and gloomy teaser. In the Loonaverse, a lot of things are turned on their heads, so while the teaser looks dark and gloomy, their debut had a bright and cute vibe. But just like Love Forever on the first look seems to be a cute song, this is just a facade. And the teaser perfectly underlines this. The teaser shows us static and a lunar eclipse before we see the red blood moon. So what is a lunar eclipse? Well, while a solar eclipse means that the moon is in between the sun and earth, which blocks the sun and makes the earth dark, which is also why this can only occur during the day, a solar eclipse means that the earth is covering the sun and this makes the moon appear red. This can only take place at night, so a total lunar eclipse makes the moon look red, and this is why it's called a blood moon. Well, and what do blood moons typically symbolize? Well, kind of like the end of the world. It is an omen for bad things to come, but I also have to mention that in some cultures it is also seen as a symbol for renewal and new beginnings. In a way, a blood moon only emphasizes the attributes that the moon already is said to have. So it can have positive effects, like bringing things to light and being connected to your own spiritual self, but also it can be the total opposite. Lunar eclipses typically happen 3 times a year. And interestingly enough, in the Hebrew Bible it says the sun will turn into darkness and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. And this was the reason why there was someone who genuinely believed that the world would end in 2014/15, since there were 4 lunar eclipses happening instead of 3, and so they thought that there were 1 too many, and so the world would end. Yeah, didn't really happen though. But in the Loonaverse it kind of did. The members coming together quote-unquote causing the 4th lunar eclipse, and this was 1 too many, making the Mobius strip loop back to the beginning. So aside from this, the 3 lunar eclipses every year would fit really well into the lore of the Loonaverse. We have 3 subunits, and originally they were all meant to debut in 1 year. In the teaser, we even see flashes of Love and Live in yellow, Mix and Match in black and white, and Beauty and the Beat in Bordeaux red, before showing us the ++ sign of the Hi era. So these groups all made changes in the Loonaverse. They made their own lunar eclipses, and now that they are all together, they create 1 too many. Then the 4th eclipse would end the world, kind of. At least it would turn back time and let us start over again. But this time ++, so hi, turns into XX, so bye. And I have to mention how kind of weird it is that they only mention Love and Live, Mix and Match, and not Love and Evil and Max and Match. As if these repackages show us a different side of them, and ++ is only about one side of the members, and the repackages show us the other side, which then could be connected to XX. Kind of interesting. And also the solar and lunar eclipses fit perfectly into the Loonaverse because they again are total opposites. Solar eclipses take place during the day and make the world appear in shadow, while the backside of the moon is light. Then the lunar eclipses take place only at night. They turn the world red, but the moon mostly stays in shadows. You could say that Hi is a lunar eclipse, a symbol for the end of the world, and an eclipse that puts things into the dark instead of illuminating the backside of the moon. Then Butterfly could be a solar eclipse, since it sheds light onto the backside of the moon and shows us the members through a new lens and a different perspective. You could even fit Favorite into the 2 timelines theory. I mean, what is Favorite about? It is a love song that talks about being obsessed with someone and wanting nothing more than this one person. But the journey of Loona this far kind of was about finding love in yourself and not obsessing over someone else and thinking that they can fix you and your problems. So what if this is supposed to make us realize that there are 2 timelines, since these 2 versions do not fit together? Remember how at the end of the Hi MV we see yellow smoke, and how that was kind of strange because yellow is Yanjin's color, but the smoke was around Chu and Gohan? Well, at the end of this MV we get blue smoke. Depending on what scale you use, yellow is kind of the opposite of blue. What if these are the Butterfly timeline members and this MV is just supposed to let us know that they have not learned their lesson yet? And that is why we see them in Butterfly unable to connect to one another and being kind of lost. And then they learned this lesson, since Butterfly is kind of like a self-love anthem, you know? And the Burn comeback could have continued things from there, like the YYY unit did for the subunits. I mean, it would at least be interesting, since it would nicely connect these post-debut MVs with the pre-debut lore of not waiting for love, but also not taking things into your hands and overdoing it, but instead learning to love yourself and accept help. But more on that later. I also have to say about this that a lot of orbits say that they broke the Mobius strip at the end of the Hi MV. But to this I have to say that the MV is turned back, so the Mobius strip that keeps on looping isn't really broken when we see things repeating, right? And also, if the Mobius is a loop, that would mean that the only way to break the Mobius strip would be to go against their fate. But uniting as a group and completing the full moon was their fate all along. They maybe thought that they could change everything by coming together, but they actually changed nothing. They followed their fate, completed the moon, and are in a perpetual cycle of repeating this process. To quickly get back to the two timelines theory and the description of the HIHI MV, it says, the emotions of each girl, faith, hope, love, and anger, gather to form a being named YY by Y. If you've seen my theory video for YY by Y, you would know that hope and love are switched around in this description. Well, while you might think that this was an accident, I don't think so. We know that Shu was really head over heels for Eve, right? So what if her emotion wasn't love though? What if her emotion was hope and Go-won was love? Could it be that Go-won would have loved Shu then? And that Shu would have used her hope to gather the girls and unite them in their quest to exit Eden? This would massively change the events happening in the Loonaverse. Just like a butterfly flapping its wings causes a hurricane, this little quote-unquote mistake could cause the story of the YY by Y members to change massively. To me, the Love and Live MV and the Egoist MV do not fit together with the HIHI MV at all, but with the XIX teaser. In the HIHI timeline, all of the YY by Y girls try to escape together. Remember how Eve is waiting for Olivia and Go-won and Shu are together. They all have a different dynamic than when we last saw them in the Love Forever MV. Maybe in this timeline, the members were able to convince Olivia to come with them, and so Eve waits for her to exit and unite with the other members. I mean, it wouldn't really make a lot of sense if Olivia meets Jinsol in the Egoist MV, and with her help exits Eden and meets Heejun on the rooftop. Then she re-enters Middle-earth just to meet the Odd Eye Circle members and go to Earth again to meet her fellow members. And on the other hand, the XIX teaser starts off with the Blood Moon from the Plus Plus teaser, and then it shows us the separated YY by Y members, and Olivia ripping off her choker to reveal a scratch mark on her neck. Might this be a scratch mark from the time Eve tried to get Olivia out of Eden, symbolized by the claw machine holding the wolf plush up by the neck from the Egoist MV? This really feels like putting puzzle pieces together, but you actually have two completely different puzzles, and you kind of first have to figure out which pieces belong to which puzzle. To me, these are two different timelines that interfere with one another, just like 1/3 and YY by Y mirror one another. And if one unit strives, the other suffers, and then the other way around. Like we saw with 1/3 having the time of their lives on Earth, while YY by Y has a really hard time in Eden. Just for the 1/3 members to have a difficult time, while the YY by Y members start having hope and exiting Eden. I also believe that the HIHI and Butterfly timelines mirror one another. It's a bit like the repackaged albums did not only show us a different side of the members, but a different side of the Mobius strip altogether. And in order for the loop to end, they have to unify the timelines and end the suffering of all of the members. Now let's just take a quick look at the description. Loona 1/3 is a combination of girls present on planet Earth. These girls portray the most realistic and practical scenarios that can easily be found on the streets or in school. Heejun, Hyunjin, Hassel, and Bibi start their stories in France, Japan, Iceland, and Hong Kong to become unified as one. Loona Odd Eye Circle places itself in between Earth and the cosmos. The beginning of Odd Eye Circle was by looking at 3 moons. Odd, mutative or varietal girls gather to form the Odd Eye Circle and show themselves by taking control in love relationships instead of waiting passively. Loona YY by Y, also known as Edenism, as it was placed beyond the Earth of 1/3 and the Middle Earth of Odd Eye Circle, in the place where we call Utopia. But the girls of Eden decide to deny the rules of Eden, to venture off on a forbidden quest to find their identities. The emotions of each girl, faith, hope, love, and anger, gather to form a being named YY by Y. The title track HIHI is a song in the genre of high energy, emitting positive energy that the gathering of the 12 members create. The desire to play hard to get is portrayed in the lyrics through the characters of each member. The official music video for HIHI, directed by the visual director Digipedi, narrates how Loona 1/3 meets Odd Eye Circle and how these girls unite with YY by Y to soar the sky, with countless visual symbolisms hidden in the scenes. Loona, building Loonaverse with belief and certainty, finally gather all 12 members and stand on their first stepping stone. Before we get into the Butterfly MV analysis, I feel like it is kind of useful to first talk about what the butterfly effect even is. So what is the butterfly effect? It basically is a theory that talks about how small things can lead to big changes. The example of the butterfly effect is that if a butterfly flaps its wings, that on the other end of the world this could lead to a hurricane. But let's maybe pick an example that is easier to understand. So let's imagine a fictional scenario. A man wakes up and lights himself a cigarette. When he notices that he is late to work, he quickly grabs all of his things, but he forgets to put out his cigarette. Then he drives way too fast because he is late to work. But because of this, he causes a car crash. Now firefighters are showing up to the car crash site, But at the same time, the house of the man starts to burn. Now, the fire can spread for a while until people start noticing it, but even when they do, the firefighters are already working overtime at the car crash site. And because of the car crash, there's a really big traffic jam. So they take an even longer time to even get to the house, which in the end is almost burned down. And all of this just happened because the man forgot to set an alarm clock. The forgetting to set the alarm is the butterfly flapping its wings, and then his house burning down and him being in a car crash is the hurricane caused as a result. So by just changing small things in history, they can cause a really big hurricane in the future, which is kind of like what the Loonaverse is all about. If Eve wouldn't have been questioning her faith and her belief and trust in Eden, then the YYY members would have never even left Eden. So now let's go over the butterfly music video, but before we can cover it, we should take a quick look at the teasers that were released before their comeback. There are 5 teasers. The first 4 follow the X, then number of the teaser X format. So X1X, X2X, X3X, and X4X. And then there is the For All Loonas Around the World teaser. This teaser and the one teaser are the only 2 videos in the XIIIX era of Loona that have this strange symbol in the title. These are called square brackets, and to quote Wikipedia, they are often used to insert explanatory material or to mark where a word or passage was omitted from the original material by someone other than the original author, or to mark modifications in quotations. Normally, these are used to insert a designation to the title, like the MVs have MV, then teasers have teaser in the square brackets. But this time there is nothing in the brackets. And to me this feels like these videos are there to give us context to something that maybe was missing, or maybe even more interesting, something that was never made to begin with. We know that YYY probably would have gotten a repackaged album and another song plus music video, so when they changed plans, maybe XIIIX felt like he needed to add context to the lore, since BBC took out parts of his lore and made the story of the Loonaverse more difficult to understand than it even was to begin with. There also are the cinema theory videos, but since they never really released, we can't quite tell how they would have been named. We only know that the one teaser was first shown off in one of these live events, so maybe these square brackets with nothing in them are for the lore videos that weren't originally intended to be public, but only shown at special events. So the empty square brackets were born. So what does the one video tell us? Well, I talked about this already, but a quick recap. The video shows us the 4 YYY members and that they are basically one. They have the same struggles, they are trapped in the same situation. It basically shows us that they do have compassion for one another since they all share the same struggles. In a way, sharing one identity in Eden, which is why them experiencing their own emotions for the first time is such an important part of them breaking away from Eden's rules and eventually being able to be their own people after exiting Eden. Then the song in the background is about the pain of knowing that the world is evil, but at the end the singer realizes that you can create a better world by bringing your visions of a better world to life. So this added additional context to what YYY's relationship to one another is, and what they got out of exiting Eden / what their plans for the futures were. Now this video in the butterfly era is supposed to add context to something as well. I think this is supposed to clarify the same 2 aspects of the lore that the one video was supposed to clarify as well. First of all, what is the relationship of the members like? Well, we see in this teaser girls around the world, and also Olivia and Eve. But I feel like Olivia and Eve being included in this teaser is just supposed to let us know that these are the Loona members, or some type of Loona members, and that this is not just a video of random girls, which also explains the title being For All Loonas Around the World. So in Hi the members came together as one, like they were always meant to. It was their fate. And it seems like their fate was created by the Mobius strip. So Eve saying in her MV description that she wants to break free from her fate, from God, and that she doesn't need no Garden of Eden anymore, no paradise, lets me know that she wants to break free from the Mobius strip, from the endless loop of them having to endlessly follow their fate. It tells us that Eve wants to change the future instead of following what others tell her to do. She wants to change the world by changing the loop. In Hi they fail to break away from the Mobius, because they do exactly what their fate told them to do, which was unite and create the full moon. So time is reversed and they get a second chance and can fix their quote-unquote mistakes. And if you ask me, then I would probably say that if coming together didn't solve anything, what about staying away from one another as far as possible? And that is exactly what we see here. All the Loonas are around the world, just like they were to begin with, Heejin in France, Hyunjin in Japan, and so on and so forth. Just like a butterfly spreading its wings can create a tornado at the other side of the world, the members try to spread their wings together, but spread them all over the world to create a bigger effect than the last time. to basically create a bigger change in the loop. But let's quickly get back to the XX teasers. These teasers have the flipped intro animation of the Hi Hi MV. This makes it the same as the YYY members intro. The XIX teaser shows us the members in close-up shots in black and white. And we know that black and white was used in Sweet Crazy Love, for example, to show us how the world looks like without seeing oddness. It looks blank, basically black and white. And after the members open their eyes to the oddness around them, the world becomes filled with color, just like Heejin describes in her Vivid lyrics. Now we go from Heejin to Yeojin, and there is a orange flash, orange being Yeojin's assigned color, then a purple flash for Cherry, a quick clip of Olivia's jawline, then they use the flashing effects from the Singing in the Rain MV on Jinsul, before we see Olivia and it is flashing, just like it does in the XIIIX teaser. Then we see Eve and there are letters spelling out butterfly over her face. Then what could be a shot of Hassel, then 12 butterflies in black and white, Chu who has snow around her, camera static, and we see an XX over Bibi's face. Just a quick little fun idea, since Bibi is an android, what if we see Jinsul through a VHS camera in her Singing in the Rain MV? Because Bibi is looking at her and we see everything through Bibi's vision, and this is a VHS camera vision because, well, Bibi is an android. Well, whatever. Now Hyunjin, Hassel go on with a butterfly over her mouth 2 times, Kimlip, and then what could be Kimlip embracing herself while there is a flash of her having butterfly wings. Though I have to say that I always theorized this to be Go-On, since she has a strong connection to butterflies, and she embraces herself in a similar manner in the One and Only MV. But you can't really see the face of the member, so who knows. I don't quite know why the members are shown in this sequence and why they show us the colors of Yeojin and Cherry. It seems to put an emphasis on these members, but I don't really know why. Now X2X. It starts with showing us Go-On run through the ice desert from the Let Me In MV. She seems to run after the car that is driving Hassel to the plane. Again we see VHS used in the teaser and Go-On falls down. Now it seems to cut to the next morning. We see another Go-On that is walking past the lying down Go-On. This is another reason for me to believe that these are 2 different timelines, since we can see 2 Go-Ons at the same time. And this Go-On could possibly be doing the forever sleep, if you know what I mean. So how is she not alive and at the same time goes back in time to come back to this point? So to me it makes more sense for this to be 2 separate Go-Ons. Also notice how the snow is gone now, while it was still there in Hassel's MV. Of course this could be because there just wasn't any snow there, but I guess it could also be intentional. I mean, if they had this planned out, then they could have filmed this earlier at the time when there was still snow around. In a way, these scenes are now mirroring one another. This one with Go-On having light hair and the background being grey rocks, and then this one with a dark-haired Hassel that has a white snow background. Go-On finds a feather in the plane and puts her hands together, before she opens them again and we can see glitching butterflies rising from her hands, 12 to be exact. And Go-On looks at us as if she notices that someone was watching her. Now, this teaser is interesting, to say the least. It makes me wonder if Go-On has time travel powers and why she is there 2 times. Like, maybe the Hi Hi timeline has reset, and this time Go-On tried to stop Hassel, but didn't succeed. I mean, in a way it would make sense. I theorized that the boy Hassel was shooting was a blonde Eden Bibi, who tried to escape Eden. So now that Go-On knows that Bibi will lose her human body and her memories, of course she would want to stop Hassel from setting Bibi free. But why are there 2 different Go-Ons? To show us that these are 2 different timelines and now the butterfly Go-On takes over in the Hi Hi timeline? I don't know, but this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Well, let's just take a look at the XIIIX teaser. This one starts off with the VHS effect Blood Moon from the Plus Plus teaser before switching to Olivia being in a tunnel. Remember that tunnels in the Loonaverse are a gateway to other realms, just like Eve traveled through realms in tunnels in the new MV and in the cinema theory where she meets Cherry. So this maybe is the exiting of Eden scene from the Olivia of the Butterfly timeline. We see some of the Loonas around the world in this teaser, and I think that they are stand-ins for the YYY members. We get to see Eve, Chu, and Go-On, and a woman with a camera. Now we see red flashes and butterfly wings on the back of Olivia. And they could be a little burnt or destroyed, but I can't really tell, since this is not really high quality. But after this we see the undamaged butterfly wings, and it cuts to the Go-On stand-in looking out of the mirror in red. This could definitely imply that not only Go-On has the power to change the Loonaverse / the Mobius loop, since Olivia also has butterfly wings now, it could mean that the way in which Olivia exits Eden is another important point in the timeline that can make or break the outcome of the loop. If she exits all alone, maybe the timeline ends badly, or the other way around, but who knows. Go-on's stand-in seems to be watching over Olivia. When she starts to run, she even runs into the Eve stand-in. When she comes out of the tunnel, she takes off her choker. Kind of like she wants to set herself free, you know? And also, again, you see these marks, and they seem like the marks of the claw machine, and so on. So this could be about Olivia rejecting her set-in-stone fate, and decides to set herself free from all of the constraints that Eden put on her, but also that fate put on her, and in a way to set free the Loonaverse of the Mobius loop. XIIX shows us Eve starting to dance in the middle of the streets, while Chu is walking around the city. And again, dancing in the Loonaverse seems to be related to doing magical things. And now we see Eve and Chu together again, so we know that the members do exit in this timeline. They're just scattered all around the world. Also, Chu's scenes being in black and white and turning red when she sees Eve is interesting. It's like Eve tries to awaken the powers of Chu through her dancing, which leads Chu towards her, and then they dance together, both having awoken something in themselves. I had this theory for a long time, but I think that this era showing us the Y members underlines that to change the Mobius strip from looping, they have to change the events and go against their fate. In this case, Y escaping Eden on their own and being the foundation of Loona instead of the 1/3 girls. In a way, it would make sense, since the Y unit is all about the girls learning not to lean on others, like Eden, and to go against their fate, and instead of this, creating their own fate. This would cause a butterfly effect in which the members try to change the Mobius strip, instead of 1/3 being the foundation of Loona. Since 1/3 just waited around and follow their fate, they can't really change much about their fate and the Mobius strip from looping. They are just too passive in the lore compared to Y, who have to take charge of their own fate. So Hi is 1/3 being the first unit, and maybe the butterfly timeline has the Y members being the first unit. Now these teasers are just really something. I believe that they show us an alternate universe Loona. Like I said before, this is the butterfly timeline and not the Hi timeline. When it comes to what is part of the Hi and what is part of the butterfly timeline, I would like to present you this. All of the white border MVs are part of the Hi timeline, the black ones are part of the butterfly timeline, and the borderless MVs are canon events, so they happen in both of the timelines, since they are constants in the Loonaverse. Like we saw with Go-On in the X2X teaser, she couldn't change the outcomes of the Let Me In borderless MV, since it is a canon event. This has to take place in the Loonaverse since it is a constant. So Heejin and Hyunjin meeting, Hyunjin being pen pals with Go-On through giving her letters to a cat is canon, then Hustle shooting her bird self, in my theory shooting BB to get her to Earth, then Yeojin getting lost in the forest and being in Eden, the 1/3 girls coming together as school friends, and BB running to Middle-earth and opening her eyes to ARTMS, while turning somewhat into a human, is canon. Though I have to say that I believe that turning human in BB's case just means having emotions and memories again. Then her meeting Jinsol on Earth, and Jinsol trying to give her back her old memories. The 1/3 girls noticing that Yeojin is missing and calling out for her with their love song/spell, and Chu being head over heels for Eve, getting herself to Middle-earth and meeting Hustle there. Those are all of the events that take place in both of the timelines and presumably cannot be changed. Then on the other hand though, Heejin awakening her oddness and seeing color awaken in the world, to me a metaphor for her seeing what is going on in the Loonaverse and making first contact with Odd-Eye Circle. Then Kimlip, Jinsol and Cherry awakening their Odd-Eye powers, and Cherry being friends with Hustle and Yeojin is canon to the Hi timeline, as well as them going to Middle-earth to build it in their own vision to create a bridge to Eden. Eve going back and forth between Eden, Middle-earth and Earth, and being in contact with 1/3 and Odd-Eye Circle to plan out the escape of the Y members, which ends up in them all coming together in the Hi MV, is all canon. In a way, it seems like a happy ending, but it is just continuing the circle. And then there is the butterfly timeline, in which Heejin is on Earth in Paris. Go-On and Olivia Hay have a really bad time in Eden, and Olivia gets abandoned by her members. Then they come together as one, but this didn't really change anything because they didn't learn their lesson yet. Like we see in Favorite, which after the turning back of time that the Hi timeline set in motion, the butterfly timeline gets another chance, and they end up going all around the world and changing things from the inside. They recruit Loona members around the world and teach them about the powers everyone has in themselves. And like this, they stop the Mobius from having the power to loop. But since we didn't get to see the Burn MV, I feel like we don't really know what the ending of this timeline looked like. So after all of this, let's just get right into the butterfly MV. Again, this starts off with the mirrored intro, and something that I would like to add to this is the fact that in this opening the colors are reversed. So instead of starting out with Heejin's pink, the intro starts off with Olivia Hayes' black color. So now instead of Heejin being the first, it is Olivia, which is a nice hint at the fact that this timeline is a mirror, so it is reversed in a way. I talked about this theory in my very first video that I uploaded, but for everyone who didn't see it, I theorized about the order of the members being reversed and what this could mean. Well, in the case of Loossembles, it means that we can see Haeju and Go-won sitting together in the car as old women, before turning back time and looking for the other members to reunite Loona. The turning back time thing to me also is a really interesting detail, because to me it does indicate that the members have some type of power that can turn back time when they are united, which would also explain why the time is turned back after Hi Hi. But this also indicates that all of the members have these potential powers, not just the Odd Circle members, because neither Go-won nor Haeju is an Odd Circle member. So maybe the Loona members are the reason for the Mobius trip to even exist. They give the Mobius the power to loop, which also explains why when they come together and complete the full moon, like their fate tells them to do, the time is reversed, like the Mobius is looping to the beginning of the Loonaverse again. And then we can theorize about why the Hi Hi members turned back time in the first place, if we believe that they have the power to do so, which my theory is that they made a mistake or just didn't come together as a group correctly in order to change their fate. So it could play into the X2X teaser and go on going back in time to the plane. Maybe some members are able to travel through time and space, and some can only travel through space. Like we saw Kimlip meeting herself at the end of the Girlfriend MV, but the YYY members are only able to travel through space, from Eden to Earth instead of back in time. So now, instead of Heejin and Hyunjin being the first members and the foundation of Loona, now it would be the other way around. And I feel like this concept was first introduced in the Butterfly era, since the X2X teaser is all about Go-won, the XIIIX teaser is all about Olivia Hay, and after that the X4X teaser shows us Eve and Chu, so we see the YYY members before we see any other members. Just like when 1/3 debuted and we only saw the 1/3 members and not any other unit. Now the MV starts off with bird noises, which is kind of interesting. In a way, it makes it feel like the song's actually playing in the world instead of just us viewers being able to hear it. We see the woman from the XIIIX teaser lying down, and it cuts to someone sitting next to a tree, with dark red apples all around her. Now a woman holding her shoes, which are the iconic Loona Converse, with the red stripe. Then a girl that is holding a cassette player that looks exactly like the cassette player from both the Girlfriend and new MV. This is immediately underlining my theory of this not only being the Loonas around the world, but them being actually Loona. Like they're just stand-ins for the members in different forms. However you want to word it, these girls are Loona members. Now about the dance scenes showing us all of the members together, I highly doubt that these scenes show us the story of the members. In a way, you could argue that these might be the members trying to use their powers and dance together to restore the timeline, just like they did in Hi Hi. But I just doubt that these scenes are canon. I feel like they were added because otherwise some fans might not have liked to see a Loona MV without Loona showing up at all. And I do have to say that Cherry having purple hair, and Go-won and Kimlip not having blonde hair but ash brown hair and ash blonde hair, does seem to me like showing us that this different timeline might have more than just a few things differentiating it from the Hi Hi timeline. We know that the members being surrounded by their colors through smoke is a sign of them awakening their powers by using them. So what if Cherry has purple hair to show us that this Cherry is a lot more powerful than the Hi Hi timeline Cherry? Plus, her hair is more cool toned on the top and becomes warmer on the bottom, so might I suggest that this time she is a true in-between of Jinsul's cool toned blue and Kimlip's warm red? Then Kimlip not having blonde hair like Jinsul anymore makes them look different from one another, which could indicate that they have a less close relationship in this timeline. On the other hand, Kimlip does have blonde streaks in her hair, and on the other side she has red streaks, so maybe she is more powerful, but also more in between Jinsul and Cherry, and not like super close with Jinsul anymore, but who knows. And finally, Go-won having darker hair could also be about her powers, since we know that in this timeline she is able to go back in time and she seems to act like a mastermind from behind the scenes. And you could kind of argue that her darker hair makes her look closer to Kimlip, since they both have darker hair now. besides the blonde and red highlights in Kimlip's hair. And this might be a stretch, but Olivia Hay has blue streaks in her hair, so does she maybe have a closer relationship to Jinsol now? And on the other hand, BB having red hair, does she maybe have a closer connection to Kimlip? Now we cut from Eve to what could be Eve's reincarnation in this timeline. Remember how we saw this person let an apple fall down, just like Eve did in the new MV? Then we see this girl with pink pants right before we see Kimlip. Might be another connection. Now we see that the Eve stand-in has a butterfly tattoo. This is obviously an important motive in the song that is called Butterfly. While Chu is singing, we get to see this girl with similar red hair, and she has a butterfly jacket on. Now a girl with a broken leg that is wearing a school uniform is sitting on a taxi. Uniforms being a reoccurring motive in the Loonaverse, since all of the 3 subunits have their own uniform designs. This is also an interesting detail. Interestingly enough, the stand-in members are looking up at the sky, just like the Loona members did in the Hi Hi MV. And now what could be Kimlip's stand-in is starting to run, just like the members did in Hi Hi. The black and white scenes are an interesting touch. Besides looking really beautiful, they also were used in the past to show us someone being blind to their powers, / looking at the world without seeing ARTMS. So this could indicate some type of connection, like the Loonas around the world being blind to ARTMS and only awakening their powers / eyes through dancing or running. Since this is something that we see most of the Loonas around the world doing in this MV, so they might be awakening their powers. A lot of girls in the same uniform could be a reference to Eden, since later on we see one of these girls stand up on her desk. This would be a nice metaphor for how the YYY members stood up against their oppressors, Eden. This scene looks a lot like Gohan embracing herself in the one and only MV. Now that the girl is standing up, the lyrics underline this by saying, "It starts with a small flap, now inside my heart a hurricane." This shows us the impact the members had on the world around them. Through a small flap, like Eve asking herself if fate is decided by God, then why not go against this God and create your own future? She caused the hurricane of the YYY members leaving Eden behind and outgrowing themselves while coming together with their friends as one. Now the other girls are standing up as well, showing us the hurricane that was caused by one of them standing up. This cuts to a girl biting an apple, which is the flap of wings that caused Eve to rebel against Eden. Now we see the girls mirroring Eve's scene of letting the apple fall down. Also, we get to see the Oddest Circle members of this universe. After this, all of the Loonas around the world start to unite in dancing, which we know has magical powers in the Loonaverse. And then they start to run, which was also done in the Hi Hi timeline. And then we see this girl running off-road. Now, this could be an interesting detail, since we know that the members running around has powers, but running off-track has some different powers. In this case, if running straight ahead makes the Mobius loop and start from the beginning again, could then running off the tracks, so not repeating the same mistakes, stop the Mobius from looping? We saw BB in Love and Live running off tracks. She did not repeat the same fate, but changed it by running off the tracks. And through this she went against her fate of being an android and became a human again. Could it be that the butterfly timeline tries to stop the Mobius from looping, since it is an endless cycle of repeating the same mistakes and going through the same hardships over and over again? In a way, the members can never escape their fate, because once the time is rewind again, they start from the same point again, and they start to run the same tracks forever. So maybe this timeline tries to not only change the outcomes of the story, but also tries to stop the timeline from looping, so that they don't have to go through the same hardships over and over again. I had this theory before that the 2 timelines could interact in the same way that the 1/3 subunit and YYY subunit interact. It's like 1/3 has a great time on Earth, but someone has to suffer for them to be happy. So the more the YYY members suffer, the better the life is for the 1/3 members. This is also why I believe that when BB exited Eden, it was Yojin's fate to be her exchange. For any person leaving Eden behind, there needs to be someone else that enters Eden and basically suffers in Eden instead of the person that exited. Only the YYY members were able to break this cycle, since they left as a unit. They left all together, and through this they ended the cycle of suffering. And in a way, I think that YYY was only able to find the courage to escape Eden through 1/3 feeling unable to do anything about their situation, having lost Yojin and not knowing what to do. Their heartbreak led to YYY's hope. So the butterfly timeline was suffering for the Hi Hi timeline to thrive. And so just like YYY broke the cycle by coming together and exiting Eden, Hi Hi tried to break the cycle by coming together, but they in the end only followed the path that was set before them. They followed their fate, which made them fail. The butterfly timeline, on the other hand, were scattered all around the globe. They were able to become powerful on their own, It is kind of like the YYY members learned in the butterfly timeline that it is best to love yourself and to not rely on others. Through this, they're able to break the cycle and run off the track of fate before them. But we also know that working all alone can also be setting yourself up for failure. This is kind of like what Eve had to learn. So I do believe that going back and reviving the members as butterflies and the other YYY members being on Earth is a great thing on paper, because they are now free. They can now create their own future without following their fate, but it also leaves them aimlessly wandering around Earth, feeling alone and craving connections, which is why Eve and Chu find one another so easily in X4X. They just needed someone to lean on. This is also why at the end of Olivia's and Gowan's lives, in the Loosembles lore, they decide to go back. This is what they say. Doesn't this sound kind of like they regret not having connections with their soulmates anymore? To me, it feels like Loosembles, ARTMS, and even Eve and Chu are picking up this story right where it prematurely ended. They are now trying to find the other members again and to come together, but unlike in Hi, where they weren't really all together since 1/3 and Odd Eye Circle were just all apart from one another, this time they want to do it right. And maybe they're able to break the cycle and unite the two timelines so that no one has to suffer for the sake of the other timeline anymore. They burn the Mobius to create something bigger and better. Like a phoenix, this new world will rise from the ashes of the Mobius strip, and the members will create their new world, their new moon. I'd also like to believe that the pre-debut era is mirroring the post-debut era. Like, we know that Loona 1/3 are waiting for their love to come, and we see in Hi how all of the members come together, but at the end they didn't achieve what they set out for, since they were too passive in the way they handled things. They let the girls wander around, and they didn't even really unite as one, since we don't see the members all together, but more so spread around the place. Now in Butterfly we have a lot of references to the Odd Eye Circle unit. We can see this in the dance scenes being in black and white, like in Sweet Crazy Love, and the dancing with water is reminiscent of Singing in the Rain. Now the girls take charge in their love, but they are overzealous and too confident in themselves. They think that they can solve this situation all by themselves and save everyone, but the Odd Eye Circle members notice their limitations and reach out to the YYY and 1/3 units. In the Butterfly era, we see the members are scattered all around the world, and they all act by themselves. It is like the Odd Eye Circle story all over again. Now they notice that they are limited in what they can do as individuals, and I highly believe that this is where the Burn comeback would have come into the mix. We know that the YYY unit succeeded in their plans to exit Eden because they loved themselves, so believed in their own abilities, but at the same time they all stick together. They were able to exit because they were together. They are one, just like the one video suggests. Now this to me would mean that while Hi is cute and bubbly like 1/3, Butterfly is a little bit more sober and mature like Odd Eye Circle, Burn could have been a mix of both, just like Love Forever felt like a mix of 1/3 and Butterfly. And in the end the members would have burned their old selves to become better people and to create a better world and future for themselves. Which would have been a nice ending to the story, since it would have perfectly mirrored the pre-debut era. They would have transformed from Icarus, who flies too close to the sun, to a phoenix who rises from their own ashes and becomes something new. And would you believe me if I were to tell you that we maybe are about to get this part of the story through the debut of ARTMS? I mean, do you remember what song they played on the homepage of ARTMS? It is the song from the Burn teaser. So I might not be right, but it could be that ARTMS is really cooking something up for us, all pun intended. And them burning this world would also allow them to create a whole new world and lore for the members now that they are not under one company anymore. Yeah, so that was the ABCs of Loona series. I guess I will add some more summary videos to the series. Since the series did become a little longer than I thought, I really thought this would be a 4-part series. And then I will work on a timeline video where I explain this madness of a timeline in a simpler and easier to understand way, hopefully. I have to give a big thank you to all of my subscribers. We're now at almost 500 subscribers, and I am really happy that there are so many orbits that are still interested in the lore and are excited to hear me babble on about the lore for hours and hours on end. It really means a lot to me that you guys are watching my videos. I mean, I've been doing this for almost half a year now, and I'm still starstruck every time I see that people are watching these videos, and are leaving some really interesting and nice comments. It's just so cool, and I'm really grateful for all of this. So until next time, I will see you then.